You think strength is what you show to the world. The muscles, the money, the confidence in your voice, the calm you fake when things start falling apart. But deep down, you know something's off. Because when you're alone, when no one's watching, your strength disappears. You overthink. You scroll for hours. You say things you regret. You lose control. You react, you justify, and then you feel shame. And you tell yourself, next time I'll handle it better. But you don't. That's because no one ever taught you where real strength actually comes from. It's not in your body, not in your reputation, not in your followers. Real strength, the kind that lasts when everything else falls apart, starts in one place, your mind. And if you don't master that, nothing else matters. The ancient Stoics understood this. They lived in brutal times. Exile, plague, war, betrayal. And still, they were calm, focused, present. Not because life was easier, but because their minds were stronger. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire on earth, and he still wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That wasn't philosophy. That was survival. That was strategy. But what's happened to us? We live in comfort, inconvenience. We have more information, more entertainment, more distractions than ever. And yet, we are weaker than ever. We get anxious over tweets, depressed from comments, triggered by strangers. We don't even know how to sit with silence anymore, because we've been trained to react, not respond. To avoid pain, not face it. To chase pleasure, not purpose. We've been taught that strength is about dominating others, but the Stoics knew it's about mastering yourself. Here's what they figured out that no one told you. Life will test you, constantly. And most people fail those tests, not because they're incapable, but because they never trained for them. They never trained how to hold tension without snapping. They never trained how to stay calm when insulted, how to stay grounded when tempted, how to stay clear when confused. They think strength is what happens in the moment, but it isn't. Strength is what happens before the moment. It's what you build when no one's watching. It's what you practice when you're alone. It's a discipline, not a reaction. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat alone in silence? No phone, no music, no distractions, for 15 minutes. Just you and your thoughts. Most people can't do it. They get itchy, anxious, bored. That's not a tech problem. That's a mind problem. And if you can't sit with your own thoughts, how are you supposed to face real pain, real loss, real life? Seneca wrote, "If you fear anything, you become its slave." And most people today are slaves to their own emotions, not because they want to be, but because they never trained not to be. The truth is, most people are emotionally weak, and it's not an insult, it's a diagnosis. They panic when plans fall through. They crumble under criticism. They rage at traffic. They numb out with dopamine. They mistake sensitivity for depth and impulsivity for honesty. They've never had to suffer with eyes open. But what if you did? What if you chose discomfort, not because you hate yourself, but because you want to be unshakable? What if you stopped chasing comfort and started chasing clarity? What if you could look at your fear and not run from it, but study it? What if anger wasn't your master, but your signal? What if you could love with depth, grieve with dignity, and walk through chaos without being consumed? This isn't fantasy. This is training. It's what the Stoics practiced, not for likes, not for applause, but to be free. Because freedom doesn't mean doing whatever you want. It means not being ruled by your impulses. It means having the strength to say no to things that feel good but destroy you. And yes to things that are hard but make you better. If you want to be strong, truly strong, then stop outsourcing your emotions. Stop blaming the world for how you feel. Start observing your reactions. Start watching your thoughts. Start noticing how quickly you justify your weakness. The next time you feel anger rising, don't act, watch. The next time you feel anxiety spike, don't numb, breathe. The next time you feel triggered, don't explode, pause. That pause, that 1 second window between stimulus and response, that's where all your power lives. That's where strength is built. That's where freedom starts. And every time you choose to respond instead of react, you lay a brick in the foundation of an unshakable life. But it won't be easy. There will be days you want to give up, moments you fall back into old patterns. That's okay. The Stoics failed too. What made them different is that they refused to stay there. They got back up, refocused, recentered. So can you. It starts with awareness, then practice, then identity. Until one day, it's not something you do, it's who you are. You become the calm in the storm. You become the strength others lean on. You become the quiet force that holds everything together when others fall apart. And the world will notice, not because you're loud, but because you're consistent, grounded, clear. That's the power of Stoicism, not as a trend, but as a way of being. So if you're tired of being weak, tired of reacting, regretting, and running from your own mind, then start here. Start now, in this moment. Watch your breath, watch your thoughts, feel the discomfort, and choose strength anyway. Because the Stoic truth no one told you is this: you don't need more motivation. You need more discipline. You don't need more comfort. You need more courage. And you don't need to be anyone else. You just need to become someone you can trust in chaos. Master that, and you'll never be weak again. But here's what most people miss. Even when they hear all this, even when something clicks and they say, "Yeah, that makes sense," they still don't change. They go right back to numbing out, scrolling, complaining, blaming their boss, their past, their partner, the algorithm, anything but themselves. And they don't even realize that's the pattern keeping them weak. Because insight doesn't equal transformation. Knowing what to do isn't enough. You've already heard 1,000 times that you should be more mindful, more disciplined, more focused. But until you make those truths real in your behavior, they're just noise. And this is where most people stay stuck. They treat self-control like a mood. They wait to feel ready. They wait for the motivation to show up before they start. That's not strength. That's surrender. The Stoics trained for moments they didn't feel ready for. They knew life doesn't wait. You don't get to schedule your storms. So they built strength the only way it can actually grow. By doing hard things on purpose before they had to. They practiced loss so they could meet it with grace. They practiced rejection so they could stay whole. They practiced hunger so they wouldn't be slaves to their appetite. Meanwhile, today, we treat discipline like punishment. We treat self-restraint like repression. We act like if something is uncomfortable, it must be bad for us. As if the goal is to never feel friction, never feel pain, never feel challenge. And yet, we wonder why our confidence is fake, why we feel hollow, why we chase validation in every direction except the one that actually matters, inward. There's a hard truth here. No one's coming to save you. No philosophy, no book, no guru can do the work for you. You have to train your mind. You have to rewire your patterns. You have to choose strength even when weakness is easier, especially then. And that choice? It won't feel dramatic. It won't feel Instagram-worthy. Most of the time, it'll feel small, boring even. Like choosing to stay quiet when your ego wants to win. Like going for a walk when your body craves comfort. Like sitting with a painful emotion without reaching for a distraction. That's how strength is built. Not in the big moments, but in the invisible ones. The ones no one sees. The ones where nothing changes on the outside, but everything changes on the inside. And here's the paradox. The more you train this kind of strength, the less you need to prove anything. You become less reactive, less defensive. You stop arguing with fools. You stop needing validation. You stop explaining yourself to people who never listen anyway, because you know who you are. And that's the core of Stoicism. Not just emotional control, but identity. Becoming the kind of person who can walk through fire and stay centered. And yeah, it's hard, because this path asks something no one else asks of you. It asks for accountability. It asks you to stop outsourcing your power to your feelings. It asks you to stop being a slave to your comfort. It asks you to live like you mean it. And when you do, you become someone dangerous. In the best way. Not because you dominate others, but because you can't be dominated. You become hard to manipulate, hard to offend, hard to break. You carry silence like armor. You walk with a calm that unnerves people used to chaos, and they'll try to poke at it, to test you, to pull you back into the noise. But they'll fail. Because you've trained differently. You've rewired what strength means. You've stopped waiting for peace and started creating it. You've stopped performing and started becoming. And once you touch that, once you feel that grounded, immovable part of yourself wake up, you'll never go back. Because now you know what real strength feels like. Not the kind that flexes, but the kind that endures. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that holds steady. And when life tests you, and it will, you'll be ready. Not because you're perfect, but because you're practiced. You've done the work, you've faced yourself, and you've chosen to show up differently. That's how the Stoics won battles no one saw, and that's how you will too. You know what's wild? The more you build this kind of strength, the invisible kind, the more the world starts to make sense. Things that used to shake you just stop having power. You stop overthinking texts. You stop chasing approval. You stop folding the second something feels uncomfortable. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. And what's crazy is, people start noticing. They can't always explain it, but they feel it. You walk into a room, and there's a different weight to you. Not arrogance, clarity, not aggression, composure. And that energy? It speaks louder than anything you could ever say. People feel safer around you, not because you're soft, but because you're solid, because you're not carried away by the wind, because you don't flinch at chaos, because you don't need to prove anything. That's the gift Stoicism gives you when it's not just a philosophy, but a practice. Not something you quote, but something you embody. And the best part? It's not reserved for the elite, the educated, or the gifted. It's for anyone willing to do the internal work. Anyone brave enough to say, my emotions aren't the enemy, but they don't get to be the driver either. Most people never get that far. They build their lives on sand, not stone. They get the job, the title, the relationship, the lifestyle. But inside, they're still ruled by fear, still chasing comfort, still hoping someone will finally give them the peace they refuse to build for themselves. But you, if you're still watching, still listening, it means something in you is ready. Not for theory, for change. And change doesn't mean becoming someone else. It means becoming someone you respect. The kind of person who can look in the mirror and say, I didn't run from my pain today. I didn't sell out for comfort. I didn't pretend. I showed up. That kind of person? Rare, precious, powerful. And here's the thing. This isn't about emotionlessness. It's not about shutting down or numbing out. That's not Stoic strength. That's avoidance. Stoics felt deeply, but they didn't let their feelings dictate their actions. They made room for fear without being driven by it, room for grief without drowning in it, room for love without clinging to it, because they knew everything is temporary. everything can be taken. Except one thing: how you respond. That's where your real power is. That's what no one can touch. Not critics, not failure, not chaos, not even death. Epictetus was born a slave. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire. Different status, same strength. Because they mastered the same thing: themselves. And that's the truth no one told you. You don't need to escape your life to be free. You just need to stop letting your thoughts own you. You don't need more achievements. You need more alignment. And alignment happens when your actions match your values, not your moods. It happens when you stop waiting to feel ready and start living like your time is running out, because it is. That's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. Memento mori. Remember, you could die today. And what a waste it would be to spend it overthinking that comment, obsessing over how you looked, regretting how you reacted, blaming someone else for your peace. Your life isn't waiting for you to get it together. It's happening now. And strength, the kind that lasts, won't be built tomorrow. It's built in this moment, right here, right now, with whatever is in front of you. This is the practice. This is the path. This is how the unshakable are made. All right, so now the question becomes, how do you actually live this? How do you take all of this, that fire in your chest, that truth you feel but can't quite explain, and make it real? Because here's the thing, it's not enough to just know what's right. You have to train it. The same way you'd train a muscle. The same way a soldier trains for war before the battle ever starts. That's what the Stoics did. They didn't just talk about peace, they practiced it. They didn't just admire resilience, they built it. In quiet ways, private ways, daily ways, and you can too. Right now, right where you are. No need to disappear into the mountains or read every ancient text. You don't need a perfect morning routine or a monastery. You just need to start watching yourself closely. Next time you feel that rush of anger, pause. Notice what your body does. Notice the story your mind tells you. And just breathe. Don't fix it. Don't judge it. Just see it. That's step one, awareness. Without that, nothing changes. And when you see it, you start to interrupt it, not by force, by space. You give yourself a window, a sliver of silence between the emotion and the action. And in that space, you choose who you want to be. Not the version of you that's reacting on autopilot, but the version that's aware, grounded, and clear. And then you repeat. Not once, not twice, every day, in small ways. When you're running late, when you get criticized, when plans fall apart, when life pokes at every nerve you've got, because that's where the real training happens, not in ideal conditions, but in the middle of chaos. That's where your old self tries to claw back. That's where you either rise or repeat. And look, you'll slip, you'll snap, you'll fall into old patterns. That's okay. The goal isn't perfection, it's pattern recognition. You catch it a little sooner each time. You come back to center a little faster. That's progress. You start to see discomfort not as something to avoid, but something to move toward, because you know that on the other side of it is strength. You stop reacting emotionally to every inconvenience, and you start responding with intention. And you notice how much energy that frees up. How much clarity comes from not being jerked around by every passing thought or mood. And as you keep doing this, day by day, something powerful happens. Your baseline shifts. What used to shake you doesn't. What used to overwhelm you now sharpens you. What used to feel like the end of the world becomes another rep in the gym of your mind. And people start to notice. They say, "You're different." Not in a loud way, in a steady way, in a way that makes them feel more stable just being around you. Because you've become someone who carries calm into chaos, someone who leads without needing to control, someone who feels deeply but chooses wisely. That's what Stoic strength looks like. Not emotional detachment, but emotional depth without drowning in it. Not apathy, but courage in the face of pain. Not control over the world, but mastery over yourself. And once you've tasted that, even a little, you realize this isn't about self-help. It's not about becoming a better version of yourself. It's about becoming you, unshaken. The version of you that's been buried under noise, under ego, under fear. You don't need to add more. You need to peel back what's not real. And the more you train this, the more natural it becomes. Not easy, but simple. You wake up. You return to your center. You act from clarity, not emotion. You keep your promises. You do the hard thing. You honor your values, even when no one's watching. Especially when no one's watching. Because that's where character is built. Not in public, in the quiet, in the choosing, in the repeating. That's how you become strong. Not by waiting for peace to arrive, but by becoming the one who brings it. And now we come to the real point, not the philosophy, not the practice, not the tools, but the transformation. Because everything you've heard, everything you've felt, none of it matters, unless you let it change you. Not someday, not later, now. Because here's what's true. Whether you're ready to face it or not, you will suffer. You will be tested. You will lose things. People will disappoint you. Your plans will fall apart. Life will bend you in ways you can't predict. And in those moments, when everything gets quiet, when you're staring down something you didn't ask for and don't know how to fix, that's when you'll see who you really are. And you'll realize strength isn't something you turn on. It's something you become. It's not a reaction. It's not a burst of willpower. It's the result of who you've trained yourself to be when no one's looking. And when you've done that work, when you've chosen discomfort over distraction, presence over escape, discipline over impulse, you'll be ready. You'll be able to hold the pain without collapsing. You'll be able to love fully without clinging. You'll be able to lead without ego, listen without needing to speak, and walk through uncertainty without demanding control. And that's rare. That's real. That's what the world is starving for. Because let's be honest, the world doesn't need more content, more outrage, more followers, more people pretending to be okay while slowly unraveling inside. The world needs you, the version of you that doesn't flinch in chaos, the version that doesn't need applause because your values are louder than your ego, the version that doesn't fold when life pushes, but holds firm, quietly, calmly, completely. That version? That's who Stoicism builds. Not a statue, not a robot, not someone disconnected from life, but someone fully alive, fully responsible, fully rooted. Someone who doesn't just speak about strength, but embodies it. Someone who walks into a room and brings order, not noise. Focus, not panic. Clarity, not confusion. And that presence, it changes people. Not with force, with gravity. That's what's possible. That's the path. But it only opens when you stop chasing the easy way. When you stop waiting to be saved. When you stop saying, "I'll start when I'm ready," and realize you've always been ready. Right now, this moment is the moment you decide what kind of man you are. Not based on your past, not based on your trauma, but based on your choices. Here, now, the choice to respond instead of react, to observe instead of absorb, to rise instead of repeat. And the beautiful, brutal truth is this: no one will know when you make that choice. There won't be a trophy, no standing ovation, no viral clip. It'll just be you. Looking in the mirror, and knowing you finally became someone you trust. So choose it. Not tomorrow. Now. Because until you master this, until you take full responsibility for your inner world, until you become the calm in the storm, the strength in the silence, the clarity in the chaos, you will always be weak, no matter how you look, no matter what you earn, no matter who praises you. But when you do master it, you won't need anyone's permission to feel powerful. You'll carry it quietly, constantly, confidently. And the world will feel it, even if they can't explain it. Because real strength doesn't need to be seen. It just is. And that is the Stoic truth no one told you. Until now.